Shut up. Everything unfortunate that has ever happened to me stemmed from failure to follow one of those two rules. I think that's what I'll read. Thanks. So in that story, this kid, Will Grayson, my half of the story, this kid, Will Grayson, has to think about those two rules and whether it really makes sense to go through life kind of with your head down. This is how I went through most of my life, and still how I go through life, honestly. With your head down, trying not to be noticed, and trying not to care about anything. Because caring, and this is a fact of human existence, inevitably leads to pain. If it were possible not to care about anyone or anything and be happy and have a fulfilling life, your life would have less pain than it does in the current mold where you care about stuff and then that stuff inevitably hurts you, right? Like it is the nature of our species to leave, to break one another, whether that be physically or emotionally or spiritually. It is the nature of our species to suffer and then to die. And then as far as we know, factually, that is it. That is the nature of our species, is to suffer and then to die and then to be dead forever. And in fact, not to get depressing, there will come a time, and this really bothers me, when not only are you all dead, which upsets me in and of itself, because most of you seem very nice, but not only are you all dead, but all of your children are dead, and all of their children are dead, and in fact, all human beings are dead, and there is no memory. This will inevitably happen. There will be no memory that any of us ever did anything. There will be no memory that there was a Rijksmuseum. There will be no memory that there was a Rembrandt who painted paintings. There will be no memory of Van Gogh. There will be no memory of the Anne Frank house or Anne Frank or anything. Or Amsterdam or Holland or the idea of saying to God, you say that's an ocean, I say it's a country. There will be no memory of all of these heroic things that we did where we literally dug a nation out of the ocean. There will be no memory of that. And the question, and this is a very real and interesting and difficult question for me, is does that fact render all of our effort meaningless? And that in some ways is the question I'm trying to deal with in a very funny, light way in Will Grayson. Is it meaningless because it will end? Is it meaningless because inevitably all of our efforts to be remembered will fail? And I think it's not. I feel very strongly that it's not, but I also think that to deny that future reality and to pretend that like we can leave our mark in a way that will last, well, that's an empty ambition, I think. Like a lot of young people in particular in the contemporary world wish to become famous, wish to make a mark, and I think we have to think long and hard about why that is, right? We have to think about why it is that we want to be famous. Is it because we want to leave a mark, or is it ultimately because we want people to like us and to care about us, and we want like our heartbreak to appear in the tabloids, and when we get engaged, we want people to be as excited as they are about Wills and Kate. Because we want people to understand that our love is really real, that our pain is really real, that the excitement we feel or the loss that we feel is to us the most important excitement and loss that anyone feels, right? Because I am living inside of my body. I have my heart, my soul, and that's the only heart, the only soul that I have. And so when those things are hurt or when those things are full of joy, that's very important to me. And I think a lot of what we yearn for is for other people to acknowledge that and recognize that. So it's not so much that we yearn to be famous. In fact, as far as we can tell from like an exterior view, being famous is extremely bad for you, right? Like how bad for Baby Shambles Pete is being famous. Like how bad for Amy Winehouse is being famous. It's very, very bad for her. How bad for Lindsay Lohan? Michael Jackson. Like there are very few people who seem to really benefit in any observable way from making their mark. So we have to ask ourselves, like, why do we care? And I think we have to have an answer for that. And I don't think this is like an empty, to me at least, it's not an empty intellectual pursuit. because being able to answer that question, like, why do I wake up in the morning and do stuff? It helps me to wake up in the morning and do stuff, when a lot of times my inclination is to not wake up in the morning and not do stuff, but to stare at the ceiling full of despair. But when we can answer that question, it becomes much easier to like get up in the morning and do stuff. And also because it shapes the stuff that we do. And so, hey, Tom. Hey, it's Nickmaster Tom. Nickmaster Tom, who, I don't want to call you out, nearly died in a bicycle accident, and then we were talking about it recently, and I said, well, that will teach you. Nearly died. Was in a coma. I said, well, that will teach you to wear a helmet. And he said, oh no, we don't wear helmets. Wear helmets. It's such an easy solution. It's ludicrous. Put on a helmet. I will buy you helmets. It's crazy. I go out there, people are like biking one-handed with a 1-year-old child strapped to their back on their cell phones with like a large piece of glass randomly hanging from the side of their bike. No helmet. No helmet for the baby. Oh God. It hurts my American brain. Anyway, when we can answer those questions, I think we end up being able to live a much more focused life, where you kind of know why you're doing what you're doing. And for me, the reason is that yes, it will all be forgotten, and everything that we do will be forgotten, and there will be no Amsterdam, and Venice will sink into the sea, and yada yada yada, and that's all true. But not today. Today, and every day this is true, every day we wake up with an opportunity, and in a world full of other people, where we can try to honor our relationships with those other people, and we can try to like come together to live a better life together. You know, to understand what it's like to be other people in a way that can lift us all up. And we've done that. We have a pretty storied history, I think, of doing that. Like, there's an old, great Roman saying that I'm not going to say in Latin because I'm sure I'd mispronounce it, but in English it's man is a wolf to man, right? Like, we are horrible to each other, and we make war, and we have slavery, and we kill each other, and, you know, we oppress women, and that's all true. But we have also, in our history, had great moments where we could have been wolves to other men, and we weren't. And that's what I find really inspirational, and that's where I find hope, and I see that a lot, I have to say, in some of you, most of you, I think, watch our videos, but some of you don't, which is okay. But my brother and I make videos, and a lot of the people in this room are part of the very large and tight-knit and awesome and deeply engaged community of people who watch those videos. And one of the things that I find so inspirational about being a part of that community is that I feel like we are sort of knitting ourselves into the world and then using the big, this is a horrible metaphor, using the big thing that we have knit to try to lift other people up, which is something that really does mean a lot to me. And when I look at the things that I'm most proud of what we've done, it's when we lift people up, whether it's like sending a 12-year-old girl to a concert who's never been to a concert, or it's building a pond sand filter in Bangladesh. I like when we come together to do stuff for each other and for others is when I feel most engaged and excited. And so when I was writing Will Grayson, I was trying to find ways to celebrate that. But in some ways, that's what I've done for that's what all of my books are about. This new cover of Looking for Alaska just came out just now. I really like it. I think that you hate it. We can talk about that in a second. Great. I'll tell you what I like about it. The girl's not super skinny, which I'm freaking delighted about because that's a big problem. And then I like the way the eyes pop. But we can talk about it. I understand you might hate it because it doesn't look like the girl that you pictured. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, no, I understand that. I'm sympathetic to that generally with photographic covers, but you can't get away from photographic covers because it's the only thing people buy. I mean, non-nerd fighters. So, and then this is Paper Towns, which in Dutch is called Paper Towns, which is nice for me. Het groot misschien. And this is An Abundance of Catherines, or in Dutch, 19 Keer Catherine.
19 keer.
Yeah, I don't make fun of your English pronunciation. So I thought I'd take questions for a minute, and then shine books. Again, but before that, I want to thank two people. First, I want to thank my publisher, Lemniscott. I have a really wonderful publisher, and they bring me here to my favorite place in the world to be able to hang out with you guys, and that is something that most publishers don't do. So I'm very grateful to them, and I also hope that you will continue to support them by buying good books in Dutch. And then also I want to thank the bookstore that is hosting this wonderful event that has basically been forced to close so that we can do this, so thank them as well. This is a new bookstore, as you may know from its name, and I love to live, even if only for a few days, in a world in which new independent bookstores can open and succeed, because I don't live in that world back home. And so this is you do not understand the extent of the blessing of good independent bookselling and a strong book culture that you have here in the Netherlands. You in some ways can't understand that until all at once you become England, and it becomes completely impossible to publish anything that isn't either written by Victoria Beckham or about vampires. And that happened very suddenly in England, and very tragically, and hundreds of bookstores have gone out of business in the last 2 years, and I think for many reasons Holland won't become England, but I worry that the US will. So I'm very glad to be able to come here and see thriving independent bookselling and lots of different titles, because if you go to a Tesco in England, which is the only place that sells books anymore, you only see like 40 books. So it's great to see so many different covers and so many different titles. All right, questions, if you have any. If not, that's fine. Did I see the match yesterday? The only match I saw yet, I saw the Spain-Portugal match and the England-France match. I don't even know what happened to Holland. I have been...
They won.
Who scored? Huh?
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you see the World Cup final?
Did I see the World Cup final?
Just checking.
I saw the World Cup final. In fact, I saw it with Leadevine. Where are you, Leadevine? Yeah, I saw it with Leadevine. We were at VidCon, a big online video conference in LA, and there were like 500 people in the room, and unfortunately a lot of them were Spain supporters, and even more unfortunately, over the course of the match, more of them became Spain supporters. And I had an opportunity to use what to you is a very cliche statement, but in America seems very fresh and new. Like, people in America think that I'm very clever when I say this, but you'll think that I am old and lame. Which is, of course, the great Cruyff saying that every disadvantage has its advantage, which I said immediately upon Spain scoring. I said, this is great. Every disadvantage has its advantage. Go out there, Dirk Kuyt, and score a goal. And it didn't happen. I cried. Leadevine can attest to the fact that I cried real tears, as I know many of you did, and it was a tough loss. But you have to play. I think that the way I want the Dutch to win the World Cup is by playing Dutch football, and that's all I'll say.
What could we wake you for at 3 a.m.?
What could you wake me for at 3 a.m.?
Yeah.
Is that like a Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton goal? That I would want to get up? Nothing. If there was something very important, like my son or something needed to be rescued from a fire, maybe. But no, ideally, don't wake me at any time. Hi.
Could you do a happy dance?
Yeah, but let's wait till the end.
Wait 1 second.
No, we'll wait till the end. We'll wait till the end. Nobody freak out. Hi.
Have you met Sinterklaas already?
Have I met Sinterklaas? Well, I kind of met Sinterklaas in process, because I went to... you guys, if you've read Paper Towns, you know that I'm fascinated by Santa Claus and Sinterklaas and the relationship between the two. Well, Winterland is going up. in the Leidseplein and also in the Rembrandt Square.